Namaste and welcome to the Men of Yoga podcast. Today's special guest is the infamous Jacob Manning. You've probably seen him on Instagram doing incredible physical feats and handstands, and he's going to share with us today his shocking history of drug addiction and his gateway into spirituality and yoga, and also his coming out story. So, grab some tea, get comfortable, and open up your listening ears. You don't want to miss this episode.
Good morning, Coco.
Buenos dias, guys. How we
Hey,
doing
how
today?
good. We have hubby
Awesome.
joining us. We have hubby joining this morning too. Say hi.
Hi, everybody. Live from the Death Star.
I was just asking the question, Coco. Like, I was just wondering, is there a subcategory for gays who are in their 30s? Because Aaron and I are known as daddies at this point, but I think we're well past the daddy because we're 50 and 50
Whoa,
plus.
whoa, whoa. I'm in my daddy era.
Yes.
Well, some people, some gays of my generation claimed to enter their daddy era early, mostly just based on how muscular they are and what kind of clothes they're wearing or their mustache. I don't give a damn. I just refer to myself as a fairy.
As you sit there in a harness and a mustache.
Hmm. But yeah, but like, can I really say that I'm in my daddy era? I don't think so.
No. And the longer you all wait, it's like the more comfortable I feel. I'm like, fuck, if their daddies in their 30s and 40s, like what the hell am I like gearing towards?
No, you got to earn that title, I think. And I mean, I like daddies, so I'm always flattered when anybody calls me that, but I'm like, I don't think you can call me that yet.
Not yet.
But thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I was thinking this morning, when we used to go to the circuit parties, I always read and saw images of like muscular men in terms of, yeah, this is like the gay stereotype now. We're muscular, we're sexy. What tripped me out was that, and this is no shade to my gay community. When I met a few muscular folks, when they have a conversation with them, they came across really soft. And that was so confusing to me. It was so confusing to me because it's like I thought for me, and I'm in my 20s in this story, right? I thought like, oh, here you go, you meet this hunk because you and I were smaller frame, and so you think that when you meet somebody big and husky, you would think like, oh, finally somebody masculine energy coming my direction, and they would come and engage, and they're drinking like a Cosmo. They're like, hey girl, how you doing? I'm like, I don't know if I like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather you not. I guess again, I was in my 20s. Like for me, like masculine is like manly man, you know. So
I guess we're very into mixing and matching now.
yeah, interesting. I'm gonna let y'all carry on by yourselves because I'm gonna help somebody with tech difficulties. I'll be right back. Carry on, boys.
Cool. So how are things on the Death Star?
Things are going much better than they have been lately. And so I'm definitely on the rise. My vibration is resonating at a higher frequency finally. And so I'm
Whew.
able to work out and I've got a little bit of my practice back, and I returned to the scene of the crime and got back on the Peloton, and so I'm starting to feel like myself again.
Man, that's so good to hear. Life force is coming back. Lifestyle is coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% better, but I am far better than I have been. And with the return of my physical practice, so comes energetically my soul and my happiness. And so being down for the count for a couple of months takes its wear and tear. So
Absolutely. Staying
yeah,
positive and staying and feeling healthy and vital is so hard when you can't move.
yeah. Well, it's
Or we can't.
interesting because my physical practice was removed from me, and in order to keep my mental health in shape, I really had to turn to alternative practices, and it opened up doors that I wouldn't have been open to had I not you know, gone through this season of loss. So, you know, it's interesting, you know, and those practices, you know, I did a charnel grounding. I was taking 108 ohms in the morning. I was, you know, doing things that I could do and had access to. And so it opened my eyes, and that was me at 60% capacity. So, you know, now I'm feeling 85, 90. So
I'm so glad to hear that, man. And yeah, I just kind of went through, I talked about it in the last episode, so I won't talk about it here. You can go listen to the last episode if you want to know what I'm talking about. But I just went through like kind of a death period as well. And it does push you towards life has cycles of birth, preservation, and destruction. And so there's like many rebirths and many deaths. And it kind of comes in cycles throughout life. And yoga really helps me to accept that and to just like have peace about going through those ups and downs. Looks like
are
we
you
have
going to walk
somebody.
me through my chart?
We don't have time for that today, but sure, let's do it.
That'll be another episode.
I have to look at it first. Yeah, that could be another episode. That would be cool.
Well, boys, guess who's joining us today? We have Mr. Jacob Manning. I don't even know he needs an introduction, but I met Jacob through social media posts, and we did a collab on a post, and one thing led to another, and we have been collabing with Yoga Belly. And so I'd asked him if he'd be willing to join us for our podcast for our Men of Yoga. And so without further ado, Jacob, please come on board and say hello.
Hey guys, good to see you all. Good morning. Hope you're having yourself a good day. And I think we're all in California. The weather's nice, which is great. And we're very, very lucky to be living here, that's for sure. And to have the freedom that we have to do whatever we want. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. So I want to do a quick introduction. So Aaron and I already spent a weekend with handstanding with Jacob. Was it like in, I want to say a couple of months ago? What, a month ago? Maybe about a month ago. So Coco, if you don't mind, so this is Jacob. Jacob, meet Coco. Coco is actually out in Costa Rica. So just so you know, I met both of y'all online, and we have also had this instant chemistry connection. And so this is how this all came to be. So Coco, please say hello.
Hello, Jacob.
Hey man, nice to meet you.
You too. I think I've been a follower of yours on Instagram for a very long time, like pre you blowing up. So I've been watching you do handstands and impressive things for many years.
Like when it was just used to be pictures.
Yes, back in those days when the simpler times.
Yes, the good times, that's for sure. I liked
it was
it
so
a lot
much
more
easier
then.
back then.
Yeah, it was less stimulating and less it was very expressive through writing, so than it is now. Now it's like freaking like it's like technology.
The circus.
Yeah, circus, exactly. Right. Costa Rica, yeah, I love it out there. I've been there a few times. Definitely a pretty great place to slow down, and the food's super healthy out there. No bad chemicals in the food out in Costa Rica, and the weather's great. The warm ocean. I'm a big fan of Costa Rica.
All those things are why we moved here.
And where do you live there?
We live all the way down at the southern border, almost in Panama. So it's like, it's like 7.5 hours bus ride from the airport. So we are pretty isolated and remote. It's a very small town, like agricultural. Over 4 years.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
I bet your lifestyle's changed moving there.
Dude, just last night, me and my husband, we've been having a really hard time lately, to be honest. It's not the chill, like paradise that you would think. Like vacationing in Costa Rica is super fun because you get to let go and like slow down, but then like actually trying to live here and like work with other people, people are pretty terrible business owners. Like the systems are just like so slow. Like everything takes forever. Like driving places takes forever. It's like actually like really hard. We've been having a really hard time. So like after we were laying there last night after a super hard day and just thinking like no wonder we feel insane a lot of times and just like so challenged because when we moved here, literally everything about our life changed. So like not an easy adjustment at all. We're still having a hard time with it.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of that, especially uh like I went to Bali for in Sri Lanka for about 2-3 months, and even just that short amount of time, you keep yourself together, but the other person has to keep themselves together too. It's like such a big culture shock, in the United States. Like everything is at your hands, and it's just there's so much more to do, and you're to distract ourselves from ourselves, and in these different countries like Costa Rica, Bali, outside of the states, there's a lot more downtime, and have to uh, come like you're just more feeling like this like we're confronted more with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna mention too, like maybe because y'all come from a yoga space too. Could you imagine people who don't have that kind of practice in terms of like just absorbing and being open and just going back to like the breath in case things kind of get a little bit like underwhelming or overwhelming. You know what I mean? Because we always have that tool at our disposal, right? So, you know,
Well,
uh,
it's not just a culture shift. You also started a farm. I don't know what your background is, but I can't imagine trying to operate animals and growing in a different culture and different environment and all the things that come with bugs and things and
the
like
part
bugs.
listen, part of what was hard about last night and part of what sent us over the edge is the like cyclically we're talking about like every month there's like some wave of some insane like creatures that are like birthed and like everywhere, and sometimes it's cicadas and sometimes it's ants and sometimes it's beetles, and whatever it is they come in swarms because they all hatch or whatever. And so in May and early June it's these little tiny like flying ant things, and they come in swarms, clouds, to all the lights at night, and our house is completely open air, so they swarm into the house and they're like just getting all over your head and your face inside the house, and then it leaves a huge mess because they only live for like a few hours, so then they're just dead in piles all over the house and you have to like deep clean the entire house because they're everywhere. And so like it's very intrusive and like terrible. Like you have nowhere to hide. And
are we sure this
yeah,
is what we want for the rest of our life?
no, we're not sure. Like we actually are like at our wits end, and we've set a 2-year period of like we don't know if we can do this, and we're gonna do our very best to like figure that out over the next 2 years. So like either at the end of 2 years, it's like we're finally loving it here and having a good time, or we're not, and we figure something else out. But yeah, like so yeah, total culture shock. We moved to the middle of nowhere and like feel pretty stuck sometimes. Farm animals. Um, we have no real friends, but lots of virtual friends. We now don't work in real life, but we work online, and we have to like completely like creatively create our jobs because you can't just like work in Costa Rica. So it's been a complete 180 shift and change on everything, and it has not been easy.
Sounds like you're
We're
speaking
fine.
Jacob's language because he loves yard work and working online.
Oh,
Come live in rural Costa Rica.
yes, we're so gonna get into that too, Jacob. So, when we have our guests come on the podcast, one of the things that we ask is like, how did yoga come to your life, my friend? Do you mind sharing about your journey?
Yeah, of course. Well, I was first adopted sports as a kid. playing baseball and football and wrestling at a really young age, and was pretty good at everything because I did everything at an extreme, and that was all my focus all the time. Not girls, not nothing besides that. And as I got older, um, drugs and alcohol started coming into the scene. And if I hit a home run, I feel this crazy, euphoric, amazing experience. And I come to learn that if I sniffed this powder or smoked this or injected this, that I would have the same experience. And it escalated for me pretty fast. And it's kind of hard to carry on with life when you're mainlining heroin and sniffing cocaine every day. So when I was 19 years old, playing college baseball and doing tons of drugs and partying and stuff like that, and then I got to the point where I wanted to stop, but I couldn't stop. And so I asked for help, went to treatment centers, in and out of the treatment centers, etc., and searching just for a different way of life and to just not stop feel like this immense amount of hopelessness, suffering that I was experiencing every day. And my aunt Dawn, she took me to a yoga class when I was 19, and we did the class. It was really hard. It was just all chicks in there. Didn't feel like I fit in, and then at the end we just lie down on the ground, and it was like for 3 minutes lying down, I felt my thinking finally quiet, and felt my past being flooded into my thoughts that were just that just had no, like, they would just come and penetrate my thinking 24/7. Have terrible dreams, but in those few minutes I experienced just freedom from that. And so she took me home, and then I went with her the next day, and then the next day I went to two, and then I just went to probably a class at Yoga Works every day for years, and then started teaching, and it's like, oh yeah, I want to do this for a living and whatnot. And yeah, it was a rough start. Audition, failed, got told no, probably because I was 20 years old. And it was really nerve-wracking and stuff like that. And from there, it just kept. And then I, created the social media when it was just pictures, and I would express myself. And I knew that with social media, just like in today's age, you just need to stand out. You need to do stuff that's most different that people haven't seen before. But at this point, most things have already been done, so it's hard to do that. But at that time, it was just a new pose that I could do with a caption of how can I express myself to a level that nobody has the balls to do, because they care so much about what other people think. And at that time, I didn't care what people thought at all. I was totally open to expressing myself, because at the time, I like live in a sober living. I work at Taco Bell. I'm going to yoga classes. I ride a bike everywhere I go. I got nothing to lose. And and everybody already thinks I'm this loser, drug addict that has completely ruined his life. Nobody wants to pick up the phone or talk to me, have anything to do with me. I burn bridges left and right. So it was like starting on the complete floor, and that was great for me. And it's what's difficult to now is to bring about that floor feeling and to operate from the floor, because over time, like relapsed in 2017, 18, whatever it was. I was in a lawsuit, so I couldn't really, I had to shut my mouth a bunch. And so I relapsed, and with the treatment, I got that same floor feeling, and that's when I came out with my, and by the way, I paid for all that treatment with my own money. So I was actually really, it actually worked really well when it was coming out of my own pocket and not families. And it kind of opened up this new way of yoga for me that wasn't strictly on the almost religious part of it, and more towards the physical part of it, which is what I've always really liked, and having my own experience with like a higher power that that's separate. That's not necessarily separate from yoga, but it's not in books that I would read or and anyways, I'll leave it at that. That's it.
Wow. Thank you for putting that out there, man. I think it's so important that, we have this conversation, because there's a lot of people who look up to you, friend. You know what I mean? It's like you have these followers and you're doing all these amazing tricks, but people don't ever know like what's behind the curtain. And I so appreciate, that's one of the things I think I appreciated you, when I think it was that second conversation, we just went there and opened it all up. Like we know who we were working with and who know we were dealing with. And, I think it's important that people put down whatever it is that they're hanging on to, so that we could travel a little lighter with your new experiences. And that's one thing I really appreciate about you, Jacob. You were pretty young, man, when you discovered yoga and when you're already going through your stuff, because you said you were 19.
Uh, well, I took my first yoga class when I was in high school. Like,
Yeah.
I was going to a class like every 3 months, maybe, with people, like a friend, and
Yeah.
it was like kind of funny and weird and whatnot, but yeah. So
And when did you take it the next level, go teacher training?
when I was living in Laguna Beach and sober living, and my aunt was just super into yoga. She still is. And
Yeah.
I just saw like she was way happier than me. She's looked at life way more positively than I did.
Mhm.
And uh I just figured that she probably knew what was better for me at the time, and I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you start teaching? Because you said you had a relapse around 2017, 2019. Like, were you already teaching? Like, was that, just
Yeah.
trying to, you were already a teacher and you had a relapse?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Of course. On and off. Like I have this 6 months sober, a year sober, 2 years,
Yeah.
all this like just short amount of time of kind of taking breaks. And for me, I was just given bad information for how to stay stopped off of that stuff.
Mhm.
And I was young and just not like ready, I guess, at the same time.
Right. And if you don't mind me asking, because you and I chatted about this, I'm an open book and I'm okay to have conversation. When did religion play a part in your shift?
I would say summer of 2022.
Okay.
I found out some really terrible information about a past relationship and extreme betrayal, and I started gambling and gambled away like 6 figures in a short amount of time. I started smoking cigarettes, pack or two in the middle of the night, and thank God, I didn't relapse on drugs and alcohol. So God, I believe God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. However, during this time, was felt like the same suffering that when I first got sober in 2020, and I I went to the beach, and like, man, God, throw me a bone, dude. I'm freaking dying. Like, just give me a sign that I'm gonna be okay and make it through this. And this kid came up to me and he's like, "Can I draw something of you?" I was like, "Sure." And he's like, "Can I pray for you before?" I was like, "Huh, okay." And then he's like, started praying. I like peeked one of my eyes open. I was like, "Is this the sign?" And then he drew me, and it looked like when he drew me, and I looked at the picture, it looked like a dead person, like a spiritually dead person.
Mhm.
And so I talked to him. He's like, "Yeah, man, I was walking," and I was like, "God, point me where you want me to go," and it was you. And he's like, "At this point, I was already way up the hill of my car, and I turned around and walked back down because I felt there's somebody I needed to talk to, and it was you." And so that happened, and I was like, "Wow, incredible." Fast forward a day or two later, I'm sitting doing my handstands, feeling the same way, saying, "Throw me a bone." And this kid named Jacob walked up to me and he said, and mind you, I was at a vulnerable place where I was looking for a sign, and I was open to hearing anything without without the feeling of taking it personal. I was very desperate, just like I was when I first got sober. I was desperate to stay sober. I was desperate to enrich my relationship with the God of my understanding. And to this day, I don't still always understand him. And I almost understand him just as much as I have my whole life, but I have a belief. And anyways, he walked up to me. And by the way, up until this point, I've hated religion. I've hated the Bible. I've hated church. I don't hate all those things, but I don't like church to this day. I don't like the word religion to this day. And he walked up to me and he says, "Those handstands you're doing are pretty cool." I was like, "Thanks, man." He goes, "Do you believe in Jesus Christ?" And I was like, "I mean, I believe, yeah, but I don't like pray and talk, like I believe, but I don't take action and putting to grow that relationship because I'm more of like open to a higher power." And he's like, "Well, if you don't give your life over to Jesus Christ, you're gonna burn in hell." And I was desperate. I heard that and it like struck me
Damn.
like lightning. And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I it was like something that I believed when he said that more than I believed anything I'd ever heard in my entire life. And if he would have told me that a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'd have said, "Go F yourself. Like, you're crazy, buddy. Like, it's not for me. Get out of here. Kick rocks or I'll beat you up," or something like that. Probably not, "I'll beat you up," but whatever. And so he said that. And then from that point forward, he was like very direct, loving, and just asked me questions that I wasn't hearing from other people. Um, and him and I to this day we're really good friends, and we talk on the phone sometimes for hours. And I've known him for a couple years now, and from then to now, like I was, uh, there are parts of him that are super like firm and preachy to where like it kind of pulled me too much in a way that was getting me to feel like anger and judging people and not and so it's like gotten to a point to today where um it's I still have like the same beliefs, but I'm a lot more gentle towards people and not judgmental, and try to understand other people's side of their experience of whatever they believe in, and not have that like completely frustrate me because they maybe don't believe in what I believe in or this and that. And I don't want to be prison to that. So, um, yeah, if that makes any sense. So,
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, man. One of the things that always resonates with me is like you're going to hell. Oh, you're going to spend eternity in hell. Like I hear this dialogue, and it trips me out because like it's a literal interpretation when people say it. It's not so much that they want you to go to hell, but I think in their minds it's literal. And Aaron and I had this opportunity to visit and again, this is no shade on the Mormon community, but we had this opportunity to check out the new Mormon sanctuary in Oakland, California. And in this tour, we went through and it was like a presentation. There's this one room was presentation what heaven would look like. And it was white, pristine, sterile, white granite, white tile, white furniture. Everything was white and glorious. And I was looking at Aaron, I'm like, it's mighty gaudy in here. And no pun intended. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I could live here. There's just no way. You know what I mean? And so there's an interpretation of what heaven would look like. It's really super manicured. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, where's my EDM? Where's my DJ? Where's the party? And I need a little bit
yeah,
of, you know what I mean? It's a trip.
sure.
But one thing that I do appreciate is like when people say that stuff, to me, what that means to me is like there's that mental, emotional, spiritual hell that you might deal with consequentially when you don't have something to believe in that's bigger and higher than yourself. Like you have to keep your focus on something in order for you to keep going. And if you're focused or driving something that's not going to be good for you down the line, that could be an interpretation of hell in terms of like, whether it's addiction or drug or sexual addiction. It doesn't lead to a path of growth and progress. And that could be the flip side of things when you don't have a strong spiritual practice. And a spiritual practice doesn't necessarily mean that you're idolizing or you're praying to something or someone. It's really about like centering your mind, body, spirit so that you walk the path in a very positive, not a little more organic, a little healthier way. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I agree with you.
Well,
absolutely.
it's an interesting choice to have an external force in your life that helps you live a productive life, and marrying the yoga practice of moving internally, and finding the God within, and so it's really like how you choose to label, what you choose to call it. If you look at religions and practices, spiritual practices, there's so much more similarity than there are differences. I mean, the words are different, but the actual common themes that thread through most major religions, most, yoga practices is, really about going inward and finding the God within, right? And, when you accept Jesus Christ into your heart and he becomes your personal savior, you have embraced this moral code that now dictates your behavior and how you show up in the world. And, there's a lot of symmetry between yoga and organized religion, but people get caught up in the words, or that you should be doing this, or you should call it this, or, it's very tribal. And, that goes to a very difficult place for some people to process, and so like in the yoga practice, for me, when I teach, I quote the Bible, I quote yoga scripture, the sutras, and, I pull from different resources really to show people that, it's really the same, and how you choose to interpret it is really up to you, what resonates for you and how you can live your most valuable, productive self, most balanced self.
Yeah, I agree with you. And really, how desperate someone is when they're hearing something has a lot to do with their ability to digest it in that moment, which is going to be their own experience. And I agree with you that all these like yoga, the Bible, Alcoholics Anonymous. They're ways to live life that are much more that tend to help other people, tend to do and put into our body things that make us be able to help other people more and feel better about ourselves. And I know that for me, like my entire life has been about like the physical world and looking a certain way, making money, being popular, and all these things are so like they don't fulfill me and they don't bring me like what I'm seeking. And what I'm seeking is connection with people and not feeling alone. Um, and ultimately a connection with a higher power, something that's not going to let me down, something that's not, because I let people down. I make tons of mistakes. I still do, and so does everybody else. So, um, and I think that when you say people get caught up in the words and this stuff, it's it's the same thing with like if I'm a vegan and you're not a vegan, and you're not a vegan and I am, I'm going to look at you differently or try to get you to be because I need the reassurance that what I'm doing is right, and that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's like what I believe is what for me to be right. Like other people to believe is irrelevant. It would be nice if they did too, sure, because I wouldn't feel alone as much. And the last thing I'll say is that um, even though I believe, like, I do believe that God wrote the Bible perfectly, and he only wrote one, and doesn't need to make a whole dozens of translations that people are writing and selling and making tons of money for. And but with that being said, for me, I am recovered drug addict, alcoholic, and for me to serve my highest purpose, which is help somebody who is exactly where I was in that suffering, that I can't stop, but I want to stop. And when I stop, I can't stay stopped. Like what my biggest purpose beyond yoga, beyond you know all this everything is to be able to help one person who's suffering from that same spiritual malady and uh, that same obsessive thinking. And when he puts it into his body, something happens that's different from other people. For me to be able to take what I've been given freely from uh, a guy who's given the same uh, the same solution to my dad, the same solution to my brother. For me to be able to take that and give it to somebody else and to guide them to a higher power of their own understanding. That is totally up to them of what I help them lead them to that. That's like the I would say something that will never be replaced with anything throughout my whole life that will come that is more important than that, because that and I like the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think that I believe like that I love that book. I look to that book for me more than I look to anything that's ever been written. Um, and I've seen it change people. Like I've seen nothing change people more. And I don't even. It's hard to. It's very difficult to explain or talk about it because it's like it says in there. It's basically unexplainable and un. It's basically like braille. in the book. Like the whole thing is basically like invisible writing, almost to some to somebody who's not fully relating to it. I guess if that makes sense. Anyways, but yeah.
No, I get it, man. You know, and like I was just saying earlier, it's like once you open up to a certain something that means something to you, then you go, you know, deeper into that, whatever that study is. You know, just real quick, I'm going to change topics in a little bit, but I just want to ask the panel real quick. Is anybody talk or familiar with the Muslim faith?
Yes.
You are? Okay. The reason why I bring this up is because I have a gal pal who sat with me for about an hour because I've never actually understood anything, or I have no idea what the Muslim faith is about. So I know of the concept of Allah and Muhammad, and as she explained this to me, Allah is God, Muhammad is a prophet, but they're not one of the same, you know, in Christian faith, God and Jesus are the same. I bring this up because they said Allah was not assigned a gender. I did not know that. Like, could be male, could be female, but Allah is Allah. And I just thought that that's really super interesting because, you know, Muslim faith obviously is, you know, there's um, a lot of people in the Middle East have this religion, and I just never had a sit down conversation about it. I just thought that that was super fascinating, you know. Um, I want to switch topics if you don't mind. Okay, Jacob, because we've had a handful, we've had gay yogis come on board, and one of the common questions as we ask is like, tell us about your coming out story. Since you're such a freaking social media stud, how and when did you come out as straight?
Um. No, I mean,
How did that, like, when was that
I
your experience? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like we
yeah,
always
yeah,
talk about
yeah,
coming out,
yeah.
you
I've
know,
never been asked that.
there you go. And here,
Yeah.
tell us, please. We're dying to know how does one come out as straight? Go.
So, like I told you, I was, really into drugs and alcohol and whatnot, and sports. In high school, you know, I I guess you could say, I started to feel attracted to girls and their features, and it's very physical, especially as a kid, and even to this day, I'm still attracted to those physical features, and a lot of times they get me into trouble and even know who she is and who she is before I start doing things that are entangling me and making my goggles foggy. But probably in fifth grade, there's a girl that was a year older than me, and she was like the prettiest girl in the school. Everybody wanted someone to be with her, and her name was Emma. And I was playing baseball, and after the game, we were sitting on top of uh, but even honestly, anyways, I kissed her, whatever, and it was like a crazy experience for me. But like I have an older brother, and he had like pornography, pet magazines, whatever, and videos, and I just was crazily drawn to the women, and like I said, to this day, like a lot of my biggest sufferings in my life have been from lust and what I'm seeing rather than what I'm hearing. And so basically, like my ideal woman I have like written on paper, and so far, like I haven't came across what I've written down, and what I've written down is just like in align with who I am and who I want to be. But at the same time, there's a couple things I have written down that I'm not even putting myself up to, which so, but yeah, I've never been asked that question before. I can't recall like as a kid, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I only like girls or whatever. Like I didn't have that experience. I just know that like I'm very attracted to women. I like women, and I'd like to find somebody that I could be with for the rest of my life and grow old with. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I'd ask you that because it's like I don't ever hear people, especially on a podcast. Maybe it's just the podcast that I watch because we're always talking about there's a commonality for gay kids to have a process of coming out and being uncomfortable, so on and so forth. Me asking you this question right at this moment, kind of like that's the idea, is like you don't have to come out. You know what I mean? And you've never been asked that question because it's never been like an issue and something that you had to hide or something that you had to process. But for the gay experience, it's pretty common for us to have the story, and that's why we talk about it. But I thought I'd use this platform to let the kids, not the kids, let our viewers know that Jacob too came out as straight.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. That's a trip. I was like, wait, what? When you were talking, I was like, is he thinking I'm not straight? Like, you know
No,
what I mean? Like,
we just don't have that conversation with straight men. And
heck yeah.
because we're Coco and I and Aaron are really developing our men's group and our men's work. And very first episode of this podcast was like, is Men of Yoga like a gay thing? I'm like, no, it's men, and a lot of gay men gravitate towards us because Aaron and I are gay. But then we also have Yoga Belly, our studio, that obviously it's a lot of women who practice. Just last night alone, I was taking a piss and I walked back into the bedroom and I told Aaron, like, why can't we fill the room with guys? Like when you go to gay clubs, Jacob, like not when you, but when in gay clubs,
Right.
men, there's a sea of men. And I'm like, why is there not a sea of men at our studio? And that trips me out. You know what I mean? And so Aaron and I are on a mission to like create this sea of men to practice. We're and I don't care if you're gay, so it doesn't matter to us, but it does matter to
It
us
seems
that,
so off
yeah.
pattern for the rest of your life, trying to surround yourself with a sea of men.
Well, sea of men on their
Really
mats.
outside the box. I'm just
Yeah.
happy that Jacob has finally elevated his look to his Super Saiyan guru look. As soon as he
Oh,
grows a beard, though, then everything will be complete.
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like I don't need honestly, I
It's a
don't need
good,
it at all.
yeah. Yeah, I find it so fun. Remember how you posted that on your story saying, all right, guys, I was giving myself a haircut. I don't know if you want to tell that story, but like you ask people, keep it short or let it grow or shave it all off.
He'll do
Did
Yeah,
anything
you?
to get out of that Ken doll
that
image.
was probably that was probably the most like engaged thing I've had all year. It was unreal. I had like
About your
that,
hair?
dude, thousands of like which one to do, and like just a crazy amount of direct message. Like, what the heck, dude? Like, it's just freaking. I cut my
It's
hair
his
wrong,
hair.
and like, of all
Yeah.
the stuff I share, like this is what
That's the
people
one.
are super entertained by or want to say something or involve themselves. It's like what the heck is the world coming to, man?
Oh yeah. When is Jacob gonna color his hair next?
Right, I'm like, okay, I just dye my hair pink. Don't care what y'all think.
Yeah, right. That's amazing.
That's a yes from Coco.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Speaking of hair,
I'll just say that it never ceases to amaze me how the masses of people are always most interested in the things that are not the most interesting. That's like the
Totally.
most objective way I can say it. But I notice the same thing like across the board all the time, that like the most interesting things that I try to share are never like the ones that really get people engaged.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for the most part, so social media just used to just be so much different than it is now. Now it's basically like drugs. Like it is literally, it's like drugs. Like
It's a dopamine hit. Yeah.
it's 100%. It's focused on a chemical reaction rather than any kind of any like logical uh information. Now it's just strictly to attack our, like you said. So that's
yeah.
why. And for some reason, cut my hair. Cut my hair actually off. I was like,
I
what's
also
that?
think like people
What's
feel
that?
like they know you know, and you're putting out a very specific image. And when you switch something,
Yes.
you know, there's this visceral reaction to, no, not that, or oh my God, that's so hot, or you know, whatever it is, the reaction, you know, but people are on this journey, you're putting out a very specific message, you know, your videos where you're handstanding and doing tricks, and all of a sudden, you know, you're being vulnerable and it's not perfect. You know, it's you're sending out this other vibration, you know, that people are connecting to at a different level, right?
Yeah. The way people see me on social media is probably not even close to who I really am and how I really like. I'm so goofy, and I'm very goofy, and I'm I'm not like in real life. Like for example, I'll go to the park to work out with my friend, and he'll be like, dude, people are like listening. I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm free to say whatever I want. Like if it, however, like, dude, I'm just gonna be me. Like I'm not freaking nah. And so, um, yeah, I guess on the media, it's like everything seems to be so perfect. But I mean, I'll walk around naked all the time. I feel well. I've dyed my hair. Um, what else? Uh,
Is this going to be your announcement? You're
I just
launching your OnlyFans where you walk around naked?
no, no, I
No,
just do that because it's like I like to do stuff that is outside of what people think is normal. Like I swim in dirty pond lakes like all the time, get mud all over myself. I don't care. Like I'll jump in the water with a full outfit of clothes and my shoes on and whatever. Who cares?
yeah.
Speaking of how people see you on social media, I want to know like who's sliding into your DMs. Is it more women or men?
Ooh. Ooh.
My brother asked me that recently. I'd say it's 75% guys, 25% girls.
And
Yeah.
how do you
Are
handle
these
that?
guys hitting on you?
Happens
Oh,
sometimes,
please. Of
but
course they are.
yeah.
I mean,
Of
let's be
course
clear,
they
you know, like
are.
100% of the
Yeah.
guys sliding into my
Jacob's getting
DMs are
dick
hitting
pics
on me.
every day from somebody, for
Well,
sure.
yeah, I mean, it is more like I mean, I don't know what you guys think of this, but it's much more common for a guy to make initiative than a girl to make initiative or whatever. But
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
I don't even, dude. It's like
yeah.
whatever, guy, girl, whatever they send, have to say. It's
You
I
just
don't
say
really
thank
have.
you.
I'm,
Thank you.
I mean, a lot. I don't respond. I don't look. I don't respond to direct messages very much unless it's I know the person. It's something really serious. They're serious about something that I offer or whatever. But I don't. Yeah, and a lot of times, I'll talk to somebody and they'll want to like do my program or whatever, and I'll spend 35, 45 minutes talking to them, and they weren't even really interested or whatever. And it's like a lot of stuff is just a waste of time on there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So,
It's fascinating though, like once you get to the social media space, Aaron laughs at me because the number of like, Jacob, you're gonna appreciate this. I too get a lot of male DMs because of the OnlyFans page, or not OnlyFans, the Men of Yoga page. And because they see a lot of, lucky us, a lot of attractive men on the page, they also associate that with heavy sexuality. So once upon a time in our world, Jacob, there's this app called Grinder, and Grinder basically is like this
I
network
know
of
what
like
that is.
guys. Okay, but
Yeah.
so I don't have a Grinder app, FYI, and I don't think I have to because now people just DM me dick pics. It's a trip. I actually had a phone call once, or somebody sent a message saying, do you mind if I share my, what is that, Aaron? What they shared? Oh, I lost Aaron, but they wanted to share their, I forget what it was. They were just waking
Grinder
up and
gallery.
No, they want to share. Aaron, what is it that they want to share there?
He wanted you to
Explosive.
witness his orgasm, but he called it something else.
Yes.
Like he was so excited by the conversation he was having with William. I come walking into the bedroom to get something, and I go to say something to William, and William stops me, which he usually doesn't stop me, and like he's got his phone and he's laying in bed, and so I let him finish what he's doing. 2 minutes later, he puts down the phone and he's like, "Sorry, I was witnessing someone." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "The guy got so excited they asked William if he would watch him masturbate." And so William, being the kind, generous soul that he is, decided to oblige him. And
Yeah.
I was like, "This
Oh, it was
it's
just,
not for me."
it was just
Like,
so, no, but it was just, it
I
was
don't
just,
want to deal with crazy like
yeah.
that. Like, I'm old school. I like to pick up my stuff in person.
Yeah, it was just so random, right? Because I was just waking up because I have my morning ritual. Like I take care of the social media for the Men of Yoga every morning before I get out of bed. And so I just happened to get this DM and I was just waking up, doing my thing. And he's like, and I'm like, sure, I'll witness it. And I didn't really know that he was gonna come up live and just like go to town. And I'm like, just so we all are clear, I said, I just woke up. I hope you're not asking me to like participate. He's like, no, I just want you to witness it. And I'm like, sure, I'll witness it. What am I about to witness? And it's like, it was full on. He's like, and when he was done, he hung up and I said, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So
Like,
that, yeah,
my
and
life is so changed now.
that's at 7:35 in the morning. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh
some
my
people get off
gosh.
on being watched like that. That was totally for him, not for you.
Right, exactly. Don't, yeah, don't take it personal. You could have been
I
anybody. It's so funny.
have learned so much about that type of behavior because it's constant when you're an out gay man that has like a gay presence and a sex positive presence. It just invites so much of that kind of interaction. I've learned so much from my 4 years of Instagramming.
Yeah, I mean, I've had stuff, but like, I don't know, with whether like if it's a girl or a guy saying something, and I'm like, and it makes how like I sometimes I'm like, what if your parents were watching what you're saying right now? I'd be like, what if you're like some like there's been some comments that are just ridiculous, and I'll respond, what if your mother was saw you write that to me right now?
William's mom would love it. She every time he tells a dirty joke, she laughs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I'm sure that to each his own or whatever, but I don't
yeah.
know. Everybody's different, like some or whatever. Like you guys are all like you're. I don't know. I wouldn't be too stoked on that, I guess.
My mom would come sit next to me at the couch while I'm working, and like 90% of the time, obviously, like I'm doing men's work, whatever. And there's a couple of times when she would like sit with me, and I'm like, I'm trying to update my OnlyFans, and I'm like, okay, so I cleared the screen, I got my phone, Twitter feed, and it's like all this stuff. I'm like, fuck, I can't work on that either. But she's like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm working. People don't
Yeah, I
understand.
mean,
They think I'm constantly just looking at sex. I'm like, no, I am not like, it's not about that. It's like we opened up this Pandora's box and we just, Coco gets the same thing. Coco and I met like, right as the pandemic started to slow down, right? And so Jacob, you and Coco and myself have the same experience in terms like we have connected, and then now we have this real in-person meeting, and there's
yeah,
obviously chemistry there, and we're probably destined to collab and work together for a while. But once we've opened up like the OnlyFans and a minute of yoga, and then there's now a huge following as well on the Facebook group, you just get so much information from people, and people feel and that it's a safe space for them to share, which I love. I want to also share with you, I don't know, have you all heard of the term demisexual?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you heard of sapiosexual?
New.
Oh, Coco, you're gonna love this. I was just educated yesterday about sapiosexual.
Tell me everything.
Sapiosexual is where it is a person's intellect that turns
Mm,
you on. I just had
got
this
it.
conversation yesterday, and I'm like, because gay, straight, that was all my upbringing. And then there's bi, trans, and then there's a difference between your sexual identity and your sexual orientation kind of deal. But when that was introduced to me, I had to like Google it, like, is this for real? And I've never met anybody who has said those words or lived that experience, which I thought was like super interesting because I was just asking Jacob a few minutes ago, like, how did you come out as
Yeah,
straight?
that,
Like,
that that took me by surprise. I was like, huh, I've never been asked that question.
but think about that, because that's you're either this or this. And like this person told me yesterday was actually it's not even body type, it's not even gender, it's intellect. I'm like, well, what does that mean? It's like, yeah, it's sapiosexual, and I okay. But when we think about these conversations, right, we do a dance, and we find a way to approach people to connect. And at the bar scene, you buy them a drink, or you dance with them on a dance floor. Like these are these old school ways of connecting and making your move. I always thought it was physical. I do realize that in order for you to have a longer sustaining relationship, is that there's got to be this chemistry, this connection, communication, laughter, all these things. I didn't think that you can go the opposite direction in terms of being turned on because of somebody's intellect. You know what I mean? Because you always kind of look at something to find something physical or something visual that you find sexy and attractive, because that's how we're conditioned. Like you were saying, magazines, like there's an image there that's like, oh, that's really titillating. You don't look at like porn and say, gee, I wonder what her IQ level is. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not my experience. But for somebody to tell me that yesterday, I'm like, fucking hey, here I am at 57 learning about this other demographic that exists, and they're not waving their flag in the air, like there's no pride for that,
Well, I would
you
say
know.
that's probably just because like that. What is the term again?
Sapio,
Sapio.
sapiosexual.
Okay. Yeah, I have actually talked to a couple of people that identify that way before, and that like demisexual isn't about you already said it. It's not about being attracted to a certain sex or a certain gender. So they've never, I don't think, I could be wrong. I speak lightly, but haven't experienced that like oppression. It's not like as divisive as being like, like no one's taking their rights away to be sapiosexual, um, or saying that you can't be that or that it's wrong to be that. So, and it's different than bisexual, transgender, gay, lesbian, because you could be any of those things and also
Well, is it
sapiosexual.
demisexual on the pansexual spectrum? Because it's not about gender and it's not about, you know,
I'm not sure. I relate
variety.
to
It's
some
smart.
things.
That's a smarter way to go, honestly. That's Look, all the relationships I've been in have gotten me in trouble when I've made my decisions based off of what I see, based off of the sexual chemistry or this and blah 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 blah. When this approach sounds like you're you're not acknowledging, yeah, ooh, I'm pretty or attractive or whatever, but my connection is being developed off of who they are and the way they think, which is ultimately going to have a more realistic result if it's a good match, and it's going to probably save a lot of pain and a lot of heartbreak and stuff like that. For me, that's something that I would like to probably be more like, and I strive to. I tried. I'm like really now trying to be like, okay, do not sleep with and uh, get to know the person, like, or getting all those chemical intertwines before getting to know them, because then
Yeah.
it just, yeah.
Oh
So
my God. You know that to start teasing you from now on. Jacob, stop sleeping with just hot women. You gotta sleep with some smart women too, who happen to be sexually attractive to you.
Or men. Keep hope alive.
Yeah, right.
yeah, I don't think I'll be swinging on that side of the plate.
Jesus Christ. Just so for the record, Jacob, I love you for your mind too.
He's not just a Ken doll, bitch.
That's right.
And your handstands.
And your handstands. Yes, that's what it was. That's amazing. Well, folks, it is time to wrap this up. Jacob, I really, really appreciate you like coming around and like hanging with Aaron, myself, and Yoga Belly. I'm so excited to get on this journey with you and see what else kind of, how we're going to take yoga to the masses. You're actually the first, well, actually not the first person, but like you're one of the people who I've connected with online and actually like sharing space with. Next is Coco. Coco, I'm going to be sharing space with you in July.
Woo! So
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing that. Before we go, let's do a quick promo, Jacob, of the plans that we have coming up on July 27th and 28th. Jacob, why don't you tell us real quick about the Thai, because that's the thing that's going to be super unique to the new yoga experience. Go.
Yeah, so Type 4 and Type 4X, it's a tool that's created for somebody who can't do yoga is already too hard as it is, or it's too easy as it is. So it's a tool that allows your body to have an over engagement to make things more challenging, or to make the motions that are being done harder, and then some things are just too hard for people and they need a little bit of support in moving into certain motions. So it's a really good tool in that aspect, and I like to use it for injuries as well, because it's very structured on connecting the whole body and feeling like when this, my left arm moves, how it's connected to the whole body.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're going to add a little bit of resistance to the flow. Jacob will be doing a friendly yoga takeover at Yoga Belly on July 27th and 28th, where you'll be offering an arm balance workshop, and then you'll be offering the Thai workshop, and then you'll be offering a beginner's an intro to inversions, and then we're going to close the weekend with a handstand. So we'll put the promo out there this week. So thank you for
it should be a fun time.
Thank you for being here, Jacob.
All right,
Yeah.
you guys.
Pleasure,
So
guys.
thank you. I'm going to let you go, Jacob. Okay.
Thank you so much for being here, Jacob.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you. You guys keep
All right,
rocking.
Thanks for being brave enough to hang out with us gay dudes and letting us publicly out you.
Anytime, man. I'm always up for any challenge, huh?
You're awesome.
All right, bye, guys.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for listening, guys. We hope you have a fantastic day on and off the mat. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review.